This is such an honor to be here. I'm so excited. And, the SoulPancake team came and did a presentation at Chapman several years back. And we had such a great time. And we've done presentations and I've done talks at a lot of different colleges all over the country. And I tell you, the students at Chapman, I was literally, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here and you gave me a really beautiful plaque, is that the Chapman students were so curious about life and new ideas. And at SoulPancake, as you know, we dig into life's big questions. And it was just so gratifying to see an active, thriving student body just digging into those questions and with a great verve and spirit. And really, among all the colleges that we've been to, really some great stuff here at Chapman, so congratulations. But, I came here, and I want to say, too, how impressed I am at this interfaith center and how beautiful it would be if there was an interfaith center like this in every city in the world. And I imagine someday there will be. To see Christians and Jews and Muslims and Baha'is and Sikhs and Hindus and Buddhists, all, maybe even the occasional atheist, gathered under one roof and sharing their common love of the divine and talking about spirituality. And I'm going to digress before I've even started. I was sitting there thinking about the word spirituality, and people toss that word around a lot. One of the things that we try to do at SoulPancake is really redefine some of these terms, because we hear them a lot, and everyone has a very different definition of them. Even the word God, people think of a different thing when you think about God. And so spirituality, let's take a second to think about what that might be. Oh, I know. How I would answer that is to look at the opposite side, which is materialism. So what is the opposite of spirituality? Because then maybe we can understand what spirituality is. So the opposite of spirituality, as far as I would look at it, is the material needs of my baser animal self. So there's basic things I need to survive, food and water and shelter, and there's social things that I need. I want popularity and people to like me and close connection to my tribe. And there's a few other things that I need to make money, things like that. So everything else basically is spirituality, because I think spirituality is, we're not mere an assemblage of random molecules that somehow gained consciousness. There is something above and beyond, some animating force, some creative force that gives us that spark of human life, and that is spirituality. It's the life of the spirit. And it reminds me of my favorite quote about spirituality of all time is by a Jesuit priest named Père Teilhard de Chardin, and maybe you've heard it before, but it says, we are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings. Excuse me, I misquoted it. Sorry. Just so you know, that's what a beard sounds like. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are not spiritual beings having a human experience. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. SoulPancake was mentioned before, and I'm often talking about it, and it's my media company website. And the reason I like to talk about it so much is I was realizing that SoulPancake and its mission and my mission is completely intertwined with my life story. It's a reflection of who I am, what I've been through, and what has brought me to this point. And that's pretty exciting to me. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story, because I think it might reflect a little bit on the journeys that you guys are about to undertake, because really, what is it all about? It's about the journey. There's a new journey beginning for you guys today. It's not just a journey of materialism. It's not just a journey of getting a job and having a family and having a house. There's a much larger journey at stake. It is a spiritual journey. It's an artistic journey as well. But I was raised a member of the Baha'i faith, and that was terrific for me. It was just wonderful growing up with some of these beautiful, beautiful Baha'i teachings that mean so much to me. The pillars of the Baha'i belief, the importance of education, the equality of men and women, the unity of all the races, that we are all one human family, the fact that there is only one God, that all of the people that were up here on the stage earlier are worshiping the same God in different ways, that there is only one faith of God that reveals itself as time goes on through various divine teachers, the Buddha, Krishna, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and now Baha'u'llah, who Baha'is follow. All these divine teachers come from the same source, bringing essentially this same message. It was exciting growing up like this, growing up without prejudice, and growing up believing that service was true worship. Service to humanity was our greatest fulfillment of ourselves as human beings. But like so many young people, and I'm not encouraging you on this path, I left the faith. I moved to New York to become an actor. I went to acting school. And I just got fed up with everything. I got very angry. I was about 20 years old. I dyed my hair black. I started smoking filterless cigarettes. And I didn't wear a beret, but practically. And I turned to theater. I turned to art. I abandoned the faith of my parents. I became an active atheist. I thought that religion was a bunch of poppycock. Can you say poppycock? Is that? Religion was a quaint old, forum for your grandparents, but it really wasn't relevant to us today. And art became my religion, and theater. And we really thought that through theater we could change people's lives, that if we did the right production of Mother Courage by Bertolt Brecht in the right church basement on the right night for the right 27 people, we could affect their hearts and change them and open their minds and through storytelling and change and affect their lives. And we really thought this. And my goal became one thing and one thing only, and that was to make a career as an actor. I wanted that more than anything else. That's all I wanted. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to ply my craft, and that's what I single-handedly devoted myself to. So what happened then, I remember one time we would have discussions, very, very self-serious discussions. One day we were sitting in the dorm room and we had a discussion. Would you ever do a commercial? And someone that was there thought about it and they said, well, I wouldn't do a commercial for like the US Army, but maybe I would do a commercial for soy milk. So it's the kind of poppycock we were up to. But then a curious and interesting thing happened to me on my spiritual and artistic journey. I had what I wanted. I attained what I had wanted more than anything else in the world. I was a professional working actor. I was getting work. I had an agent. I was poor. I was really dirt poor and struggling, but I was getting to do what I had trained for. And I was really unhappy. And that's the oddest thing. Because in our culture today, happiness is just around the corner, isn't it? Oh, if I just get that car, then I'll be happy. Oh, if I get this house or this job or this raise, then I'll be happy. Happiness is just up and around the corner. It's not right here, right now. So I really thought that this would bring me great happiness, and I was telling great stories in church basements to 27 people, and it wasn't working out. So I started rethinking this whole God question, and I asked my friends to a T, do you believe in God? And back then, there was really one response that everyone had, and they said, well, basically, I don't believe in a judgmental white guy with a beard on a cloud kind of scowling down at me, but I believe there's something out there, and there's some power or presence or force that's out in the universe vaguely. And Every single person answered the question in the same way. And I kept thinking to myself, I was like, this can't be right. There either is or there isn't a God. It's kind of like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. So there either is a divine creative force in the universe, or we're just a chance assemblage of molecules that open our eyes and we have consciousness for a few decades and we have a few limited breaths on this planet and then we keel over and then that's the end of our consciousness and that's it. And perhaps that is the truth. I know it not to be. But those are basically, as I saw it, was the two options. So I began my real spiritual journey around that point. And I was in my late 20s, and I started reading all of the holy books of the world. And I read the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and the Dhammapadas of the Buddha, and I read the Bible. And I started reading the works of about Native American spirituality, which I found were really interesting. And all of a sudden I stumbled upon Wankantanka. And that was a god I could get behind. I found Wankantanka. Wankantanka is the name of the Lakota god of the Sioux. And it literally translates as the great mystery. And it's the god that runs through nature. It's the god that runs through the 6 directions, north, south, east, and west, up. No, the 7, north, south, east, and west, up, down, and in. And it's the God of our ancestors. It's the God of the animals. It runs through the trees. And it's eternal and not judgmental. It's just this beautiful force. And the more I read about it, I was like, wow, I could really get with this Wankantanka. I don't know about God, but I could totally go Lakota right now. And I'll never forget, I was talking to my friend Phil, who was a poet. He's actually a professional poet. And I was talking about Wankantanka, and we were watching a baseball game. It was the Mets, and Darryl Strawberry was up. And Phil said, let's put it to the test. Let's find out if there's a Wankantanka. Right now, the Mets are down by 1 in the bottom of the 9th. You pray to Wankantanka for the Mets to win the game. Let's see what happens. It's absolutely true story. I swear, no, really it is. Shut up, you in the hats. Just listen and learn. So I decided to pray to Wankantanka. I hadn't tried it before, but I raised my arms and I was like, oh, Wankantanka. And then I was like, why am I raising my hands this way? I don't know what that means. But I said, Wankantanka, oh great mystery, great spirit, God of my ancestors, God of nature, if you exist, show yourself to me. Let Darryl Strawberry hit a winning run and let the Mets win this baseball game. And I literally finished the prayer, and it was like, Darryl Strawberry hits a 2-run home run, and the Mets win the game in the bottom of the 9th. And Phil and I were like, this absolutely happened. Phil and I still talk about it to this day. And it was really like, it kind of struck a chord. I was like, okay, I need to continue down my journey here. And that's when I came back to the faith of my childhood, and I started reading the holy Baha'i books again of Baha'u'llah. And I came back to my faith with a renewed purpose and vigor and a much deeper understanding for the journey that I had taken, both spiritually and artistically at that point. One thing that I learned when I came back to my faith was that in my own faith, this journey was encouraged and appreciated. There are some teachings in the Baha'i faith that I hadn't learned while growing up. And in reading things on my own and seeing things from my own eyes, I came to a much deeper personal understanding, like I said. So one of those teachings is a core teaching of the Baha'i faith. And I believe it's a teaching that applies to anyone, no matter what their faith. And that is the individual investigation of truth. This is one of the central pillar core teachings. If you were going to just put out, 6, 7, 9 boxes of teachings, this is a central one, individual investigation of truth. Baha'u'llah teaches us that every person on this planet needs to find the truth for themselves. That we don't inherit the truth of our parents, and that we also don't inherit the truth of our culture, right? Because our parents may have one way of seeing the world and our family, but our culture has a different way of seeing the world. I look around at contemporary American culture and I'm like, wow, it really wants me to buy things. And America, my culture really wants me to look good. And my culture, there's wonderful things about American culture too, don't get me wrong. I'm just pointing at certain things that, are, it doesn't really want me to think that much about deep stuff. It doesn't want me to deal with death. It doesn't want me to think about death at all. We don't talk about that. We cry a little bit and put something up on a blog site or something like that, and then we're done. So there's all these things that when we look to the individual investigation of truth, that we have to find the truth through our own eyes and not through the eyes of others. And this was really a big revelation. Another revelation was for me were a number of writings in the Baha'i faith that talk about art being the same as prayer. That the act of creation, of making art, of making something beautiful, is an act of devotion in the universe. And this just floored me. I was like, you mean when I was doing Bertolt Brecht for 27 people in a church basement, I was praying? That's crazy. But it's true. And the more I researched this, the more I found this to be true. In the Baha'i faith, there's a phrase that Baha'u'llah says that work in the spirit of service is worship in the eyes of God. Work in the spirit of service is worship in the eyes of God. And there are many others that talk specifically about art. Baha'u'llah's son, Abdul Baha, who Esme read some quotes from earlier on, he said, "To a young Baha'i, I rejoice that thou hast taken pains with thine art, for in this most glorious age, the making of art is the same as prayer. That is to say, when your paintbrush touches the paper, it is as 'twere thou wert kneeling in the temple." I thought this was very beautiful. Why is this the case? Well, I don't know exactly why this is the case, because I think one thing is that art is service. It brings beauty. It tells stories. It unites people. It uplifts the hearts, as we heard from that beautiful rendition of Andy Grammer's song. It brings us together as a culture. It unites people. Also, to me, I was thinking about God is known in almost every religious tradition as the creator. When we think about the creator, and I think about the Big Bang and how glorious it was that there was this thimble full of matter, so hot and so condensed and so very, very small that it contained all of the universes, all the galaxies that exist right now inside of it. And then all of a sudden, boom, Genesis, these galaxies explode across space. So there's this blank canvas, right? This three-dimensional giant blank empty universe. Now it is filled with these incredible pulsating galaxies everywhere. And that is the power of God. That is the power of our Creator. And an artist, in a way, is emulating that, right? You have a blank piece of paper, and then there's something beautiful on it. There's a blank screen, and you make a film to project on it. There's an empty stage. You tell a story on it. There's silence in the molecules of the air. Then people sing, and music comes out of their voices and out of their throats and fills the hall and lifts our hearts and fills our spirits. And that is the divine impulse. It's the transcendent impulse. It's the impulse that all humans have to transcend their material and just like, I want stuff, and I need to poop, and I need to have sex, and I want that car, and I'm itchy, and I'm a monkey. It's the impulse that's beyond that. And so this was very exciting. And this is the origin of the creation of SoulPancake. What we decided to do is make a social networking community back when I had a little success when the office was first starting. And it started as a social networking community of people engaged in life's big questions. So we thought, what better way for everyone to have their own individual investigation of truth than by the questions that have plagued humankind since the dawn of time, since we were in caves, tracing our hands on the walls and drawing elk and telling stories and dancing in front of fires, since we were ancient Greeks gathered around in togas, feeding people hemlock tea. What did the Greeks do? They talked about life's big questions at great lengths. They explored it in their plays and in their literature. through the cafes in Europe, through college dorm rooms right now, engaging in life's big questions. Why are we here? What is our meaning? Is there a God? Do we have free will? What is love? All of these wonderful questions. So it came from that impulse. It's a Baha'i-inspired media company, meaning that it's inspired by that idea of the individual investigation of truth, and that art and spirituality are the same thing. They're synonymous. They're not a different thing. Again, we talked about spirituality, any impulse other than just the material, then the monkey is spirituality, and that is the transcendent urge to create something beautiful. And we also did it as a service. We wanted to make something as a service for people to explore these ideas. So it's a very exciting time for SoulPancake to be moving forward as a media company. And it's interesting, when I first started it, Ed Helms came up to me on the side of the office and he was like, so what is this SoulPancake? And I was like, well, it's a website that combines philosophy, spirituality, and creativity. And he was like, well, aren't those things mutually exclusive? And I don't say this to diss on Ed Helms. I do that directly to his face. But that's a very interesting way of looking at the ideas contained in SoulPancake, because I think it is very prevalent in today's society, where philosophy is not something that is urgently relevant to your life, but it's something that you take a very boring, dry academic class in. Sorry, no, is there any philosophy professors here? I'm sure there's a few. That spirituality is something you experience at church on a Sunday morning, or synagogue on a Friday night, or at yoga class on a Tuesday morning. It's something that you go somewhere to go do your spirituality. Spirituality isn't something that you're constantly breathing and expressing in your life. And creativity, like I said, being a spiritual impulse. And this is our great battle, I think, for all of us. And as you begin this journey, wake that kid up. No, there, shit. I was going to say, like, put a Dorito in his mouth or something. That's what we used to do. In the theater, people would fall asleep, you put a Dorito in their mouth, and they wake up. It's very funny. Henceforth, you should be known as Dorito Mouth. I hope I'm not that boring. But we live a life of such great compartmentalization in our culture, for the most part, where we have our work that we dutifully go to, hoping to get ahead, and then we have our hobbies that we really love, and our family that we're obligated with, and our friends that we really like, and then our spirituality that's over at this point in time when we do that, and our exercise and our time in nature over here. And there are all these different compartments. And the battle that I am constantly fighting with myself is how can I unite all of these things? How can I be this dorky, weird guy on a comedy TV show, who used to be on a comedy TV show, who's also a Baha'i and a spiritual person, and I have a family that I love and I'm devoted to, and I have my friends, and I have my hobbies and my work and my service, and I don't want these to be in separate boxes. I want them to be united into one whole. This is my great journey. This is your great challenge, that your work and your service and the God that's in your heart and the art that you create, because I believe that even if you're an accounting major, everyone is an artist in some way, shape, or form. Everyone gives life to where there was nothing. They bring something, or they do something with some skill, craftsmanship, and artistry in praise of the divine and in praise of the Creator. That all of these things can be united into one. I remember having this experience once when I went to a museum where it was a Native American museum, and there was this pot on the wall, and I was reading about this pot, And it's normally this kind of thing that you walk by at a museum when you're going to look for a Van Gogh painting or something like that. But there was this pot, and it was done by some native tribe, and it had a picture of a mountain, and it had a little river, and then it told a little about this pot, and it was like, this was done by a potter who was a craftsman who learned his trade from his father, and this mountain that's on the pot is a holy mountain where their ancestors are buried, and the river is the life-giving river that flows through the center of the village. The pot was probably washed in that very river that's pictured on the pot. It's signed. We can tell that there was a craftsman here. It was used both practically, it was used in religious ceremonies, and it was a symbol of the tribe and of the family and everything like that. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is beautiful. This is just gorgeous, because here's this thing, here's this object that incorporates so many different elements. It is a thing of beauty. It has a beautiful aesthetic. It's very practical. It holds water. It's social. It unites the tribe. And this is an important part, an aspect and reflection of the tribal heritage and their art forms. It's also spiritual. It reflects this mountain where their ancestors are buried, where the gods live, where they experience God. And all of these different aspects of tribal life are contained in this one ceremonial pot. And I thought, that's really the journey that we need to go on, is to become, you need to become a pot. I don't know how to wrap this all up. But I think you get the idea. That is my continuing challenge, is to unite all these things into one, and that's the word integrity. You know, integrity comes from the word integration, which is Latin for integratatem besatam. I don't know what the Latin is, I don't know. But I think about integrity a lot, because it doesn't just mean, we think of integrity of like having values, but it also means integration. It means all these disparate elements, that there's not all these kind of secret compartments in you as a person, but that's all united into one whole, and into one pot. There's a couple of quotes I wanted to read, and then one challenge, and then I'll be done. And I'll take my plaque and head up the I-5 out of Orange County. Sorry. Education is prized in the Baha'i faith greatly. It's one of the most prized things there is. And Baha'u'llah has a beautiful quote about education. I was just thinking it over here, and we secretly Googled it to make sure I got it right. And it's about education. Regard man as a mine rich with gems of inestimable value. Regard man as a mine rich with gems of inestimable value. Education alone can reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. Inside all of us, we have this potential, this potentiality. It was referred to earlier on in the discussion. Education can allow us to dig up those treasures and then be a benefit of mankind. How can you be a benefit of mankind if the treasure is hidden inside of you? So you're on that journey. This is the beginning of your educational journey. It doesn't just end right now when you get a diploma and you get a stupid hat. It's continuing on for the rest of your life, and it's your job to continue to unearth those gems. And one other thing I want to leave you with is, there's a Baha'i quote that I love from a book called The Hidden Words, and it says, "O son of spirit, possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting." O son of spirit, possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. And this is the first hidden word. This is one of the primal teachings of the Baha'i faith. It boils down to this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that you can live forever. And this is contained in the holy writings of every religion, in some way, shape, or form. That's why religions are one and why they're united. So there's a world out there that would like you very much to be cynical. It would like you very much to be jaded. It would like you to be closed down. It would like you to toe the party line. It would like you to be materially focused. It would like you to shut down your heart and guard your heart. And this is the greatest challenge of all, is that as you set forth today, because remember, from Teilhard de Chardin, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. C.S. Lewis says, we don't have a soul, we are a soul. We have a body. So as you set forward on your education, digging those gems of inestimable value up from within you, I urge you again to remember that the greatest challenge that you may face in your entire life is to continue to strive to possess that pure, kindly, and radiant heart. Thank you.